My Weirdest School, Book Number 8. Mrs. Master is a Disaster. Written by Dan Gutman. Pictures by Jim Pelot. Chapter 4. The Name Game. Everybody was excited about inventing the first heated, scented, talking toilet seat that glows in the dark, even Mr. Cooper. "I can't wait to get started," he said, clapping his hands together. "I have a workshop in my basement. I can build it there tonight." "I can bring over a hammer," said Ryan. "I have some wood we can use," said Neil. "Slow down," said Mrs. Master. "That's not how to start a company. Alexia, grab a pencil and paper. Kids, before you invent anything, you need to make a business plan." "Huh?" we all said, which is also, backward. "You need to explain to the world why your company will be successful," said Mrs. Master. "Let me see. Does anybody know many houses there are in China?" Andrea took out her smartphone. Her parents got her one so she could look stuff up and show everybody how smart she is. "It says here that there are almost 500 million households in China," she reported. "Good," said Mrs. Master. "Write that down, Alexia, and let's say that 1 out of every 10 families in China bought our toilet seat. How many toilet seats would they buy?" Andrea fooled around with her smartphone some more. "Almost 50 million toilet seats," Andrea said. "Wow," we all shouted, which is Mom upside down. "Good," said Mrs. Master. "Alexia, write that down. 50 million toilet seats." "That's a lot of toilet seats," said Emily. "And that's just in China," said Mr. Cooper. "The worldwide market will be much bigger." "We're gonna make bazillions," shouted Michael. We worked on the business plan for the rest of the afternoon. Mr. Cooper didn't try to teach us spelling or math or any other boring stuff. All he cared about was the toilet seat. It was almost 3 o'clock. For once in my life, I didn't want to leave school at the end of the day. Starting a company was fun. "The next thing we need to think about is a name," said Mrs. Master. "We already have names," I said. "My name is AJ." "Not names for us, dumbhead," said Andrea. "We need a name for the toilet seat." "Why can't a chuck full of toilet seats fall on Andrea's head?" I was going to say something mean to her, but I was too busy trying to think of a good name for our toilet seat. I couldn't come up with anything. "How about the heated, scented, talking, glow-in-the-dark toilet seat?" suggested Alexia. "That's a little wordy, dear," said Mrs. Master. "It has to be a cool name," said Ryan. "Like Cozy Crapper." "Crapper is not a nice word," said Mrs. Master. "Nobody will buy a toilet seat with the word crapper in its name." "Why not?" Ryan asked. "The toilet bowl was invented by Thomas Crapper. Dr. Nicholas taught us that when she visited our school." "How about Turdinator?" suggested Neil. "That doesn't have the word crapper in it." I have an idea, shouted Andrea. Cushy-tushy. That's a great idea, Andrea, said Emily, who thinks all Andrea's ideas are great. Fanny canny, shouted Michael. Butt hut, shouted Ryan. Squat spot, shouted Neil. Hot seat, Mr. Toilet, Royal Flush, Glow Bowl, Thunder Throne. Everybody was shouting out names for the toilet seat. Some of them were funny. Sir Flesh-a-Lot, Poopomatic, Mean Green Potty Machine. Some of them were just dumb, like Fabulous Floater Flusher. I wasn't coming up with any ideas. I thought and thought until my head hurt. How about you, AJ? Asked Mr. Cooper. Do you have any names for our toilet seat? You're usually good at this sort of thing. I don't have any ideas, I admitted. Arlo, said Andrea. You are such a party pooper. As soon as those words were out of her mouth, everything stopped. I looked at Andrea. Andrea looked at Emily. Emily looked at Neil. Neil looked at Ryan. Ryan looked at me. Time seemed to stand still for a moment. It was like the sky opened up, rainbows appeared, and angels started singing. Party pooper, I yelled. We should call it Party Pooper. It's the perfect name. Everybody started shouting, Yes, that's it. You're a genius. At that moment, the bell rang. It was 3 o'clock. Time to go home. Great, said Mrs. Master. We'll call it Party Pooper. I love it. I'll type up the business plan and print it out tonight. Tomorrow we'll work on a prototype. Huh? We all said. A prototype is a model of the finished product, said Mrs. Master. Leave it to me, said Mr. Cooper. This is a job for Cooper Man. Chapter 5. You ain't seen nothing yet. The next morning, the weirdest thing in the history of the world happened. Mr. Cooper came running into the classroom. Well, that's not the weird part. Mr. Cooper comes running into the classroom every morning. The weird part was that he came running every morning. The weird part was that he came running into the classroom with a toilet seat over his head. You don't see that every day. Mr. Cooper thinks he's a superhero, but he's not a very good one because he tripped over somebody's backpack and almost slammed his head into his own desk. No worries, he said, jumping up off the floor. I'm okay. At that moment, Mrs. Master rolled into the class on her hoverboard lawnmower. I see you finished the Party Pooper prototype, she said to Mr. Cooper. Yup, he replied. Isn't it a beauty? I made it with my own hands. Big deal. It would be a lot harder to make a toilet seat with somebody else's hands. We all gathered around to see the Party Pooper prototype. It was beautiful. I think it's safe to say it was the most beautiful toilet seat I had ever seen. And believe me, I've seen a lot of toilet seats in my time. At that moment, Mr. Klutz came into the class. He was followed by a whole bunch of teachers. Our librarian, Mrs. Rupee, the computer teacher, Mrs. Yonkers, the art teacher, Ms. Hannah, and the school counselor, Dr. Brad. Our class was swarming with teachers. We heard about your new toilet seat, Mr. Klutz said excitedly. We wanted to see it. It looks like a plain old toilet seat to me, said Mrs. Rupee. Ah, but it's different, said Mrs. Master, as she unrolled the cord attached to the toilet seat and plugged it into an electric outlet. Here, touch it. Mrs. Rupee put her hand on the toilet seat. Ooh, it's warm and toasty, she said. Hey, I shouted. Maybe people could use it to make toast. Nobody's going to make toast on a toilet seat, dumbhead, said Andrea. Oh, snap, said Ryan. I was going to say something mean to Andrea, but I didn't have the chance. Check this out, said Mr. Cooper. Turn off the lights in the room, please. Somebody flipped the switch. Everything went black, except for the toilet seat, which gave off a soft blue light. It glows in the dark, said Mrs. Master, so you can find it at night without turning the lights on. Cool, all the teachers yelled. And it smells nice, too, added Mr. Cooper. The heating element inside the toilet seat activates a floral scent. It will make people feel like they're pooping in a fragrant forest. Who wants to poop in the forest? I'd rather poop in a bathroom. I bet even bears would rather poop in a bathroom than in the forest. It's amazing, said Miss Hannah. You ain't seen nothing yet, said Mr. Cooper, as he waved his hand in front of the toilet seat. Listen to this. My name is Party Pooper, the toilet seat said in a computery voice. I'm your friend. Your toilet seat talks? Asked Dr. Brad. It does more than just talk, said Mr. Cooper. I worked with our computer teacher, Mrs. Yonkers, on this part. We put a motion detector and a computer chip in Party Pooper. When it senses there's a person nearby, it will have a little conversation with you to keep you company while you're in the bathroom. Go ahead, try it. Hello, Party Pooper, said Mr. Klutz. Nice weather we're having, isn't it? Lovely, said the toilet seat. Why don't you sit down? How is your day going? It's a hard day, Mr. Klutz told the toilet seat. Tell me about your hard day, said Party Pooper. Oh, I had another fight with Dr. Carbles, the president of the Board of Education, Mr. Klutz replied. He doesn't like me very much. And how does that make you feel? Asked Party Pooper. Terrible, said Mr. Klutz. I am sorry you had a fight, said Party Pooper. Perhaps things will turn out better tomorrow. See, said Mrs. Master. The toilet seat uses artificial intelligence, so it sounds just like a real counselor. I feel better already, said Mr. Klutz. Dr. Brad, our school counselor, didn't look very happy. Wait a minute, he said. So this thing can help you with your personal problems while you're in the bathroom? That's right, said Mrs. Master. Dr. Brad sighed and made his way toward the door. I guess you won't be needing me anymore, he said. I figured I might lose my job someday, but I never thought I'd be replaced by a toilet seat. Chapter 6. My Genius Idea. We all felt bad for Dr. Brad. It would be a bummer to lose your job to a toilet seat, but the other teachers were really excited about Party Pooper. I want to buy one, said Mrs. Rupee. Me too, said Miss Hannah. Me three, said Mrs. Yonkers. We don't have any Party Poopers to sell yet, said Mrs. Master. Before we can sell it, we need to raise some money. Why? Asked Mr. Cooper. People are going to give us money when they buy the toilet seat, right? Yes, said Mrs. Master. But we have to get a factory to build more Party Poopers so we have something to sell. That costs money. You have to spend money to make money, and it costs a lot to create a new product. Toilet seats don't grow on cheese, you know. That would be cool if toilet seats did grow on cheese. Of course, if toilet seats grew on cheese, there would be no reason to start a company to sell them. You could just pick them off the cheese like fruit. Mrs. Master said we needed to make 1,000 toilet seats to start. Then, if sales were good, we would tell the factory to make another 1,000. 1,000 toilet seats? That would cost a lot of money. We all went through our pockets to see how much money we had. Ryan had $1. Emily had 2 quarters. I had 35 cents and some gummy bears. We didn't have nearly enough money to buy 1,000 toilet seats. That's when I got another genius idea. Hey, I said, in NASCAR, they have stickers with company logos all over the cars. Like Burger King will pay money so they can put their logo on the car. What if we did that with Party Pooper? Burger King isn't going to put their logo on a toilet seat, dumbhead, Andrea told me. That's it. I was sick of Andrea saying mean things to me. Your face looks like a toilet seat, I shouted at her. Oh, snap, said Ryan. Here's what we need to do, said Mrs. Master. We need to get investors. Grown-ups will pay money to buy shares in our company. Then, if the company makes money, the investors will get some of the profits. Party Pooper can't miss, Mr. Cooper said as he reached into his pocket. I want to invest my life savings in the company. I'll chip in $1,000. Wow, we all said, which is Mom upside down. 1,000 is one less than 1,000,000. Mr. Cooper wrote out a check and gave it to Mrs. Master. I'll invest $1,000 too, said Mrs. Rupee. I want to buy a piece of the company. Me too, said Miss Hannah. Me 3, said Mrs. Yonkers. Me 4, said Mr. Klutz. All the teachers started writing checks and taking money out of their wallets to give to Mrs. Master. They were practically throwing checks and bills at her. I had never seen so much money in my life. This is fantastic, Mrs. Master said as she counted the money. I'll contact some factories this afternoon. Then they can start making Party Poopers right away. Of course, the children will still own most of the shares in the company, said Mrs. Master. After all, Party Pooper was their idea. Yay! We all shouted. Everybody was excited about our new company. All the teachers were shaking hands and hugging each other. Mrs. Yonkers said she would set up a website so people could order Party Pooper over the internet. Ms. Hannah said she would make some artwork to use in newspapers and magazines and online. This thing was really happening. We were gonna make bazillions, and the whole thing was my idea.